Hi, you're on Rescue TV with Dr. John Demartini. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
This is a really interesting time of year. I think people have kind of gotten over their, New Year's resolutions, and we're now deeply in the year. And it's a time where possibly the reality of life has caught up with the idealistic version of the year we'd like to have. And one of the things that comes up a lot is that people sabotage what they really want to achieve through fear. And I'd love you to share with us your concept of the 7 fears and how to overcome them.
That'd be great. I see this every year. People do New Year's resolutions and set these kind of idealistic goals, and then usually within 2 to 3 weeks it's starting to fade, and in a very short period of time they're kind of wondering what's wrong with them, or there may not be anything wrong with them, but maybe what they've set out as a goal to be. See, every human being lives by a set of priorities, a set of values. And whenever they're setting goals that are aligned with what's truly most important, they have the highest probability of achievement. Because you're spontaneously inspired from within to do that which is highest on your value, and you need consistent motivation and reminding to do the things that aren't.
When I read your Values Factor book, I can genuinely say this, that this year when I did my goals and re-looked at my goals, I always have goals, I actually applied the Values Factor principle, and I cut out maybe 50% of my goals because I realized that they weren't my goals, they weren't my values.
You just nailed it. Because what happened, the second you set a goal that's not aligned with that value system, you have a decreasing probability of acting and persisting. So what happens is people set goals that are not theirs, and they don't even know they're doing it. And what triggers that is anytime you meet somebody that you think is more intelligent, that you think is more successful, you think has more wealth, you think it has a better relationship, you think that has more social influence, better looking or beautiful, somebody that's more spiritually aware. Anytime you compare yourself to somebody and minimize yourself to them and put them on a pedestal, without even knowing it consciously, you start to inject their ideas and ideals and values into your life. And it clouds and confuses you about your own goals. Instead of being true to yourself, your highest value, and setting goals that are really meaningful to you, you set up these idealisms, and then they don't come through because they're lower on the values, and you tend to have to be reminded to do it, and they fade away. So what happens is we have the fear of breaking the morals of some spiritual authority that we've looked up to. We have the fear of not being intelligent enough compared to somebody. We have the fear that we might fail. We have the fear that we might not make money or we might lose money. We have the fear that we might lose loved ones or not appreciated. We have the fear of being rejected, and we have the fear that we don't have the beauty or the stamina like everybody else. And anytime we subordinate to people around us, those fears emerge inside us. And anytime we set goals that are theirs and not ours, we end up with fear that stops us from action, and we hold ourselves back. But the fear is actually a feedback to let us know we're not setting real goals.
Right. So that's a great barometer of is this really my goal or not?
Because the second you set a real goal that's realistic, there's an area of the brain called the executive center. And anytime you set a goal that's aligned with your highest values, the executive center comes on. And there you see the goal, you strategize it, and you execute it. But anytime you take in other people's values and you try to set goals that aren't yours, the amygdala comes in rhyme. And the amygdala wants to avoid pain and seek pleasure, and it's looking for immediate gratification. If it doesn't happen really quick, you give up on it.
Can I ask you something? What's the difference in your view between goals and as you were saying, and I really learnt this from the Values Factor too, a goal is something you can then break down and strategize and have a game plan to get there. It's also something that's aligned with your own values. Got that. But a lot of people confuse visualization with goals. Can you explain the difference? Because sometimes people think, well, if I see it clearly enough, if I want it so bad, it's got to happen. And then they get disappointed if it didn't materialize because they feel like they spent a lot of time visualizing it. Can you share the difference?
I had a lady come to me about 6-7 years ago after The Secret came out. And she says, Dr. Demartini, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I keep messing up. I watched The Secret 6 times, or no, 20 times. I read the book 6 times. I go out to my mailbox and I go out there every single day and I don't have $1 million check. What am I doing wrong? And I said, have you considered going and working and serving somebody? You have to set goals that are real, that are tangible, that are aligned to what you will do, so you'll act on them and meet the goal. You have to have a strategy so you can see it in your mind's eye. You can't fantasize. You have to have something that's actually grounded enough where you'll make actions on it and it's possible. If I see somebody that's really short and they want to be a supermodel that's a 7 foot tall supermodel, then they're running a fantasy possibly. But if they have something that is matching their own behavior, their life demonstrates it, they're consistent on it, and it's something that they really meaningful and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there, they increase the probability of achievement. If you can see it, but you can't see both sides of it, because along the way to do a goal, there's going to be things that are going to be easy and things that will be difficult. Every goal. I mean, when you stop and think about goals that you once set and you thought, God, when I got there, if I had known I was going to go through all this. When you can see both the support and the challenge, the eases and the difficulties, both sides, the pleasures and the pains of getting the goal, and you can see them both, and you're willing to embrace both, you have a real goal.
And the fear, so if you set a goal and it's a stretch goal and the fear comes from the questioning of your mind of, am I worthy? Can I do it? Am I capable? Is that the same as the goal not being aligned to your values, or is that a good fear to have?
If a person's having an anxiety and they're thinking they're not good enough, that usually means that they're setting a goal that's beyond the level of their own strategy.
Okay.
Now, they can either go in and add new strategy in there, and then they don't beat themselves up because they can see it now. And that means that they've also accumulated more of the challenges that they're there, so they're more realistic. But if they set a goal that's not theirs, not in their value system, and it's not their executive center coming on, they don't see the strategy, and they've set too big, and they've exaggerated themselves, and they end up having to compensate by minimizing themselves. Anytime you exaggerate yourself, your mind automatically minimizes yourself to get you back to being yourself. That's why setting goals. If you set too big a goal in too short a time frame, that means you're kind of manic. If you're down to depressed, you set too small a goal in too long a time frame. Mm-hmm. But if you're real and you're authentic, you set real goals in real time frames, and that's where you achieve the most.
I love it. Thank you so much. Perfect timing as usual. Go back to your goal list and evaluate it, and just make sure that you feel good about it, that it's achievable, and that it's absolutely aligned to your highest values. Thank you as always.
Thank you.